violent moment? Throughout modern history, acts of terrorism have been designed to do just that, to inflict maximum fear, cause unimaginable loss, and send shockwaves across the globe. The stories behind these attacks are not just about statistics. They are about the precise planning, the catastrophic failures, and the moments where everything changed. Welcome to The Final Cry. Today, we are counting down 8 of the most devastating terrorist attacks ever conceived. If you are ready to understand the events that defined generations and reshaped our world, make sure you hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. The blueprint for domestic terror. Our story begins not with a foreign enemy, but from within. In 1995, a former U.S. soldier named Timothy McVeigh became the architect of the deadliest act of homegrown terrorism in American history. McVeigh was driven by a deep-seated hatred for the federal government. He did not need a complex network. He needed a rental truck, a massive amount of fertilizer-based explosives, and a target. He chose the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. On the morning of April 19th, McVeigh lit the fuses and walked away. The explosion sheared off the entire front of the 9-story building. The scene was one of pure devastation. When the dust settled, 168 people were dead, including 19 children in the building's daycare center. Nearly 700 others were injured. McVeigh was eventually caught, convicted, and executed, but his legacy of hate did not die with him. FBI records show that decades later, he is still cited as an inspiration by a new generation of extremists, proving that a single, brutal act can echo for generations. This was a stark warning that terror could come from within. But what happens when attacks become so massive, so coordinated, that they feel like they are coming from everywhere at once, targeting the very symbols of a nation's power? The Mogadishu Fireball. In 2017, the city of Mogadishu, Somalia, was all too familiar with violence from the militant group Al-Shabaab. But on October 14th, the group planned something on an entirely different scale. A single truck was loaded with several hundred kilograms of military-grade and homemade explosives. Its target was reportedly the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The truck was stopped at a security checkpoint, but as guards moved in to search it, the driver suddenly accelerated, crashing through a barrier. What happened next was a perfect storm of destruction. The truck bomb detonated, and the blast ignited a fuel tanker parked nearby. The resulting fireball demolished buildings across an area hundreds of meters wide. The official death toll climbed to nearly 300, with hundreds more seriously injured, making it one of the most lethal single terrorist acts in the world for years. Rescue workers dug through rubble with their hands, and the heat was so intense that many victims were never found. An entire city block was wiped out by a single, monstrous bomb. But even as the city mourned, intelligence hinted that others, inspired by the attack, were watching and waiting. Could another strike be just around the corner? The Paris Nightmare, November 13th, 2015. Paris, the city of light, became a city of terror on the night of November 13th, 2015. Coordinated attacks struck at the heart of France's nightlife. A series of gunmen and suicide bombers from the Islamic State targeted multiple locations: the Stade de France during a football match, the Bataclan concert hall, and cafes scattered across the city. At the Bataclan, a concert was underway. People were lost in music, laughter, the joy of sound. Suddenly, gunfire shattered the air, panic erupted. People tried to escape through windows, doors, even over balconies. And then the unthinkable: hostages were taken. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, time seemed to slow. By the morning, over 130 lives had been taken. Hundreds more were injured. Investigators uncovered the chilling level of coordination. It was designed to terrorize an entire city simultaneously. Even as Paris mourned, intelligence hinted at a darker truth. Others, inspired by the attacks, were watching, waiting. Could another strike be just around the corner? The London bombings, July 7, 2005. London, a bustling global hub, faced a sudden, brutal assault from within. On the morning of July 7, 2005, 4 suicide bombers identified as Mohammed Sadiq Khan, Shehzad Tanweer, Jermaine Lindsay, and Hasib Hussein did the unthinkable. Working in coordinated synchrony, they targeted the heart of London's public transport system during the morning rush hour. At 8:50 a.m., 3 bombs detonated aboard underground trains within seconds of each other. One tore through a train on the Circle Line between Liverpool Street and Aldgate stations, another ripped apart a train on the Circle Line at Edgware Road, and a third devastated a Piccadilly Line train deep underground between King's Cross and Russell Square, the latter causing the greatest loss of life. With the underground network in chaos and shut down, hundreds of thousands of commuters were forced onto the streets. At 9:47 a.m., the fourth bomber, Hasib Hussein, detonated his device on a double-decker bus at Tavistock Square, tearing the roof off the vehicle. The city was plunged into panic, with mobile networks failing and a thick cloud of uncertainty descending. By the end of the day, 52 people were dead and over 700 were injured. Somewhere in the shadows, the ideology behind the attacks continued to spread. Who would be next and when? The Bali bombings, October 12, 2002. Thousands of miles away, the island of Bali, Indonesia, renowned for its beaches, nightlife, and tourists from around the world, would never be the same. On the night of October 12th, suicide bombers from Jemaah Islamiyah struck the popular tourist district of Kuta. The first and most powerful bomb was a massive device, concealed inside a white Mitsubishi van parked directly outside the Sari Club. A suicide bomber detonated his explosive vest inside Paddy's Pub, a crowded bar, forcing panicked survivors to flee directly into the path of the far larger van bomb, which detonated seconds later. The result was catastrophic. The blast sheared facades off buildings, incinerated vehicles, and left a meter-deep crater in the street. The chaos was compounded by a third, smaller device detonated outside the U.S. consulate in Denpasar, causing alarm but no casualties. The aftermath was a scene of pure horror. Once bustling streets were transformed into a flaming wreckage. The death toll ultimately reached 202 people, representing over 20 nationalities. The victims included 88 Australians, whose loss devastated the nation and became Australia's deadliest terrorist attack on its citizens, as well as 38 Indonesian nationals and many other foreign tourists. Hundreds more suffered horrific burns and shrapnel injuries. For the first time in a long time, Asia had had its taste of terror. Europe would be the next attraction spot for the terrorist element, and the location? Spain's capital, Madrid. The Madrid train bombings, March 11, 2004. Madrid, Spain, was shaken to its core on a day that would become known locally as 11M. On the morning of March 11, 2004, the city's commuter rail system, a lifeline for thousands, became the stage for one of Europe's deadliest terrorist attacks. The plot was chilling in its precision and scale. 10 backpack bombs, packed with shrapnel and concealed in sports bags, were placed on 4 separate commuter trains converging on Atocha Station, one of Madrid's main transport hubs. The attacks were meticulously timed. Between 7:36 and 7:40 a.m., as trains were at their most crowded, 10 of the 13 bombs were detonated in quick succession, some remotely via mobile phones. The coordinated blasts turned carriages into tombs of twisted metal and shattered glass. The scenes of devastation were overwhelming. Survivors, covered in blood and dust, stumbled from the wreckage or were helped by fellow passengers. Emergency services faced a monumental task, racing to tend to the wounded and recover the dead from the mutilated trains. The final death toll was 191 people, with more than 2,000 injured. 4 years after the incident in Indonesia, Mumbai in India welcomed terrorists into its abode. The Mumbai attacks, November 26-29, 2008. 10 coordinated attacks struck hotels, a train station, a Jewish center, and other public areas in Mumbai for 4 consecutive days. The city faced not a single bombing, but a coordinated military-style siege from the sea. This wasn't a hidden plot, it was a televised citywide battle. The operation was launched by 10 members of the Pakistan-based terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba. They entered the city not by land or air, but by hijacking an Indian fishing trawler, killing its crew, and then coming ashore in inflatable dinghies at 2 separate locations. They arrived armed with assault rifles, hand grenades, and sophisticated communication equipment, their targets carefully chosen for maximum terror, body count, and international attention. Buildings burned, trains derailed, and hostages were held in luxury hotels. Over 170 people were killed, and more than 300 were injured. The city was paralyzed with fear, yet the attackers managed to evade capture for days. Investigators raced to piece together the network behind the strikes. Every clue suggested a level of planning and coordination that made the entire city vulnerable. Even after the siege ended, the question lingered. Who else could carry out such an attack, and where? The final cry, 9/11. September 11, 2001. The world watched in disbelief as chaos unfolded in real time. 19 operatives from the Islamist terrorist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial passenger jets with one horrifying goal. This was not about ransom. This was about slaughter on a scale never seen before. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. 17 minutes later, United Flight 175 hit the South Tower. Panic swept through New York City as the enormity of the attack became clear. At 9:37 a.m., a third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon, the very heart of the U.S. military. A fourth plane, United Flight 93, was heading toward Washington, D.C., likely the Capitol or White House, but passengers fought back. In a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the plane never reached its target. In total, 2,977 innocent people were killed. The Twin Towers collapsed into dust, iconic symbols of global economic power reduced to rubble. The immediate aftermath was a global war on terror, invasions, and a new era of security. For families who lost loved ones and survivors who escaped the crumbling towers, September 11th was not a political event. It was a personal, unfathomable tragedy, the ultimate final cry. From a single truck bomb in Mogadishu to homegrown attacks in Oklahoma City to coordinated urban assaults and bombings across continents, these acts show the devastating capability of terrorism. They are brutal reminders of the fragility of peace and the enduring need for vigilance. If these true stories have impacted you, let us know by leaving a like and a comment below. Make sure you are subscribed and have those notifications turned on. Stay aware, stay safe, and we will see you in the next one.